Wow. Should we start?
Yes, Deepa.
All right. Okay. So hello everybody. Welcome to the first HR Baithak of Yellow Spark. And we're very happy to have you all join this conversation with us. And we have envisioned this as more of an HR Baithak because we want an open dialogue, more participation, more exchange of ideas. And we've invited people who we are very familiar with, who we worked with for a number of years. So we have like this really easygoing conversation, which is relaxed, informal, and candid. And we'd like honest exchange of ideas, a workplace culture. That's what we would like HR Baithak to be. And this would be the first one, and we'd like it to be a great start for us on trends, challenges, changing workplace concepts. So that's HR Baithak. And today we have with us three of our very old associates, people we worked with before, people we've associated with in different capacities. Introducing Shalabh Sahai, who's co-founder of I Volunteer. It's your 24th year now, is that right? You're muted.
Yes, 24th running. So 23 completed, which is
Lovely, awesome. So he brings into the table a lot of interesting concepts on how volunteering can change the corporate landscape and how people can engage with their employees and make a difference in social impact. He's also going quickly through his bio. He has designed multiple youth leadership programs, including the ICICI Fellows in 2009, JSW Foundation Fellowship, Swar Fellowship in 2025. He's co-founded Jobs for Good, and he's an HR consultancy for social enterprises. And he serves on several boards, and he's a great input for us on this HR Beta. Thank you for joining us today, Shalabh. We also have Namita. Namita is heading the HR function at Hurix Digital currently, and she's a very people-first HR leader. She's all about building high-performance, engaging, thriving workplaces where talent and business successes align. So she'll bring in a lot of interesting perspective on employee engagement and how people, how to get people together and, spark different good ideas in organizations. And she brings in that kind of perspective, which we should enjoy talking about. And finally, we have Angeline Tellis, who's a very seasoned HR professional. She's worked in several industry capacities in HR and set up, also works with startups. So interesting new age concepts, new workplaces, new workplace ideas, and brings in a variety of industry perspective into the conversation. So thank you all for joining us today. And so just to start off, I'll begin with, asking Shalabh, you have worked in this volunteering space very specifically and focused. So why don't you give us some ideas of experiences and ideas of how you have, set up these, employee engagement activities for some companies. Maybe you can start with an example within I Volunteer or with some clients you're comfortable talking about.
Yeah, loads of things that we've done. So I'll pick up the first one that we had way back in 2005, I think, when we did the first corporate volunteering program. That was informal. We didn't have a contract or a so-called partnership with the corporate. It was just that, okay, a couple of people who were coming from a single company, and we said, okay, can we do it over there? So it was like an informal, but yet corporate volunteering, one of the first in India. So they came into us and they said, well, we want to kind of, have some kind of a volunteering, obviously, but we also want to see if people can get to know each other better through that volunteering. And we said, yes, great. So we discussed several ideas. I think what we ended up doing was organizing for a cricket match between a group of children from uh, underprivileged background and the employees of the company. We created mixed teams between them and kind of did a cricket match. Now, why a cricket match and what did we get out of it? Was we realized that when we were beginning with corporate, it was the company wanted their people to get to know each other better. Okay, so we wanted a fun setting. We wanted to make sure that people connect with each other. And obviously, we wanted the organization that we were working with on the with the children also to gain and build a certain amount of bond. So great cricket match, good timing. By end of the day, in the debriefing, the some of the people from some of the employees from this company came back, and it's a large conglomerate. And they came back and said, "Oh, I didn't know that, that there was somebody who was in the accounts team in my company, which actually was member of a certain cricket club." Um, and the idea of actually organizing a cricket match also came because we were starting to discuss between the employees, what are your interests? We were discussing this individually, not in a group, but what are your interests? And there we came out with this idea of doing a cricket match. So it was simple that, we sometimes assume certain things about certain people. We think that people in the account section will be boring. We usually don't connect with them. But then I think through this, we were able to really break down that wall. We were able to create, a better connection between people. We were able to leverage uh, personal interests for a social cause and a corporate team building. So yeah, that's just like very early example because you asked me the hundreds, but yeah, that's it came to my mind.
Oh, nice. So, you, yeah, it's basically getting people you wouldn't think who could engage easily, actually engaging and enjoying the activity. So that's great. Namita, I'll come to you now and I will ask you a similar example. Perhaps you can talk about how you made a difference in culture, engagement, and retention. That might be a good space for you to put in your inputs.
So, when it comes to culture retention, I think there's a lot that kind of goes in, when you do activities and all of that, right? But I think one thing that we did a little differently was having an open house forums, for people. So many times what happens is that uh, you have dedicated surveys, which people are always very scared of writing, their inputs with their names, on forms and things like this, right? So one thing kind of engaged that if there is something to be talked about, why not just address the elephant in the room in a public forum, right? So when I joined one of the organizations at a very early stage, what we did was we just called up teams in different settings, not like trying to do a skip level really, but just calling them without their bosses in different rooms and opened the forums for them to just talk and share without any theme, without any topic, right? That they had to kind of talk about. And it could even be if they're not comfortable, they could just talk about themselves, they could talk about their colleagues or whatever it is that they are identifying. Because you, as a human, right, we do have a tendency of giving a lot of advices and wanting to help people, right, which comes very naturally. We don't know how to help ourselves or others, but we want to always help and make a difference to somebody's life in some other way. I think that open house forum just catapulted into a series of amazing suggestions, great ideas, amazing fun activities, because we started doing this a little bit more on a quarter basis, like every 3 months, and it became a fun engaging forum of having like these banters and addressing each other on any quirky tips or gossips also for even that may happen in the office. to talk about it a little bit more openly to each other, right? Without any barriers or hierarchical pressures as such. So that really made a lot of difference for us because then the ideas were heard firsthand. They were not ignored. We had to face them in the next open house if they were still existing, that to kind of go back and reach out to them. And then they also realized that the HRs genuinely do not have horns or devil teeth to kind of bite in so that they could come in and openly talk about their inner deep secrets and desires and wishes, which we kind of changed and transformed into great initiatives, making them, kind of giving them the courtesy, the thank you or whatever that is, or the credit rather, for whatever that they did. And at the same time, ensuring that if they had a reason to leave or whatever it is, it's well addressed within time, and not through very formal setups, but through these informal setups, which made life very easy, for all of us in it. So yeah, that is something that we did.
Very nice. Angeline, would you like to give some example from your area of expertise?
Sure. So, similar to what Namita spoke about, she spoke more from an open forum, a group setting. We've done something similar in my past organizations. We do something called as a talent pulse check, which is where we connect with individuals one on one. Just maybe start with an informal conversation, eventually getting into a more formal tone. When that comfort has been built, and people are more okay to share with you as a HR professional or HR partner then. And these conversations were, right from knowing them to why they want to stay back. So a little bit of stay interview, sort of a questionnaire, which would talk about what they love about their job, why are
Nice.
they here, what keeps them motivated, what are the challenges, what kind of support they receive. So these kind of questions help also get a lot of information and insight about their space of the work, their mindset, what can be better at making their job better, or if there's a challenge with the culture, whether it's the team, whether it's the manager, whether certain processes. So a lot of these conversations helped us, streamline a lot of processes for people, a lot of systems, get a lot of restructuring done also, and also a lot of initiatives around upskilling people, their personal development, their professional development, as well as getting them more engaged. So in one of the companies, this pulse check was really a hit, and we were able to sort of bring down the attrition by leaps and bounds. Especially because they obviously trusted and they saw very visible changes that we were doing, and the
Nice.
confidence was strong, and hence a lot of people stayed back and grew in the system.
Very nice. Nice examples about retention, engagement, as well as involving people in activities that through different and unusual measures. So we've got good perspective on this. Now, I would like to touch upon maybe challenges. Any points you all have faced in challenge, any challenges in bringing in winning changes in organizations.
So,
Um,
Sandeepa, I want to ask that a little differently to them.
okay,
So great to hear all the examples, and it all seems like जो idea हम सोचते हैं कि ये तो work नहीं करेगा, actually that's the one that turns out to be the biggest hit. You're like कि अरे cricket is done to that, like in Shalab's example, who will enjoy cricket, but it led to team bonding, not only volunteering or
correct,
open houses. You always say who wants to open the Pandora's box of trouble, but if there is the commitment, then you can see it through, or the pulse. Like a lot of times it's just it's look like a tick mark. आजकल वो बहुत सारा होता है ना moodometers, right? Everybody has to say what their mood is every day, sort of a thing. It just seems to be a
correct.
tick mark, but good to hear that it led to a certain kind of change. So tell me, which initiative failed then? So
Huh.
you're telling me the challenges. We try several things. We want a certain kind of culture. Yeah, sometimes something as small as a cricket match, or naming the policy differently. I want to give an example here before I hand it over to all of you. So one of our client, they have all Gen Z employees. Okay, and I can see Namita's already nodding, and I think we've all had our fair difficult situations with the Gen Z, right? And they were all employed on a contract basis. And Gen Z being Gen Z, they were very well aware. If I'm on a contract, leave is not a concept that should be applicable to me. So I can take as many leave as I want, right? And so we tried to introduce a leave policy for them, and there was a huge pushback. Okay, and the small change we did is we just renamed that policy from a leave policy to a work-life balance policy. Then the way we wrote the policy, the way we looked at it, the way we defined parameters, it's no longer sick leave, or casual leave. Everything changed about it, and then when we introduced the policy, it really, really went well. So that's an example of somewhere where we failed, but then we had to take a small step that, really catapulted the acceptance and the way the culture then emerged from there. So any failed initiatives, and it's okay if you couldn't turn it around, but what failed? हम बहुत कुछ try करते हैं culture के लिए. Yes, shut up. Start with
Or
that.
even you can even talk about pivoting something, because failure is not always, I mean, it's some evolving process. So
Yeah. So the immediate example that came to my mind was, there are volunteering is known for kind of volunteer dropouts, and that's a accepted challenge. But that's dropouts of people not registering. One of the initial programs that we ran on skills-based volunteering with again a large Indian conglomerate. Uh, they wanted us to run skills-based volunteering primarily for the mid-level managers. And we went in and we presented, what the program will be about, conduct a little orientation, which was to introduce what the program will be about in order to get signups. We had some 30 projects, which was the laid out target for us. So 30 projects, 30 volunteers that we wanted. There were 50 people present in the room who signed up. So super excited, right? Saying that, wow, 50, overachieved. So already overachieved. And this was supposed to be a 3-month engagement. Like the duration of engagements was supposed to be 3 months. The time spent would have been something like about 15, 20 hours really over the period of 3 months. You know, 4 weeks down the line, uh, most projects had not even initiated. So 4 weeks out of 12 weeks gone, projects had not even started. Most of them, 90% projects had not started. And the few that, not 90%, but I think about 75% had not started. And the few that had started, it was just a meeting that had taken place and nothing moved beyond it. So that was a failure for us, because we said, what happened? And the company also challenged it, what happened? What did you guys do? And then we tried figuring, what would actually move. So in terms of pivoting, what we figured was that what will incentivize people. So why the signups had happened was because we were able to make a nice pitch for the program, a nice engagement on the spot. And so in that on the spot, a lot of hands went up, a lot of signups happened. But the energy fizzled away as soon as the people went back to their regular work life and, regular personal lives and things, there are priorities that take over. We had to simply identify what were the social cues, what was the corporate cues that will move the needle over there. And we realized that this was a company where the face time with the top management was extremely well valued. It was an old economy, slightly hierarchical company, and the face time with the company management was critical. So we simply incentivized. We said, okay, whoever is complete, has done 75% of the project in the next 4 weeks, there is a lunch with the MD that's been organized for these people. And that completely just shifted up. So next 4 weeks, we had majority of the projects that had achieved that level. So we figured that, sometimes you have to understand what people might want. And this will change from, organization to organization, company to company. And it's not necessary that, this will work in a IT environment, because IT environment is much flatter. And it is not
right.
necessary that FaceTime with the MD will work. It's possible because in some other place it might be the business leader. The business leader is in the unit head that might actually be more acceptable for the people. So you have to figure out, what moves the needle. And in another case, we simply came in as an advisor. We're not executing the program. And they said that everybody wants to volunteer for our program where we support people, where we support wildlife conservation in some of these well-known forest reserves. But nobody volunteers for regular programs that we do. What do? We said simple, put a clear kind of policy over there that only people who've done a certain number of volunteering hours can actually eligible to kind of sign up for the other program, which is much in need. And so you have it over there. So yeah, that was another just example. I'll think of more failures and I'll come back, but then let others also a chance.
Interesting.
What about Angeline and Namita? Do you have anything you'd like to share? Who would like to go first?
Did I?
Okay.
Okay, great, thanks. So, one of the things that HR folks are very enthusiastic about is training. And, we had this one training program that we said, okay, let's do a first-time manager training program for all the people who got promoted this year after the approval. And we devised a lovely training content and, with lovely videos, etc., etc. And we did the program. And after the program, everything was great. All of them were charged up, all the first time managers, and they all went back. And we did like a small survey after about 2 weeks, just to understand the feedback of these managers. The first time managers, if they're implementing and if there's any change in the way they are looking at things. We did both from their DRs as well as directly leaders themselves. And we realized that it did not turn out the way we wanted to. They were still the same mentality of what they were before they became leaders. And what we realized is the classroom training is important. It helps. You can give them more videos to watch and you can make them do self learning. But what is essential is on the job training. So a small tweak, what we did is we got them like a buddy mentor and we align them to one senior person in the system who's been managing teams and managing people and ask them to sort of be their guide, be their mentor, if they have any challenges about how to address a particular situation with their team member, how do they, address that. So this really worked. I mean, obviously there was this a little hitch that happened and then this entire buddy mentoring program sort of really worked for them. And eventually when we took feedbacks, we saw a lot of changes in the way they thought, the way they behaved, and the way they approached a situation that earlier was, thought through in a very, sort of narrow-minded. So those changes came about, and then we were able to get those impacts.
Oh, nice.
Great. So, I would like to add, so sometimes what happens is not everything that we try needs to work perfectly, right? And it's okay to kind of have some failures because some of the best cultural shifts that come through are the ones which are not really planned. And one such big one, which I think most of us in our respective company and places we deal with, and specifically after COVID, was to getting employees back, at work, right? I think that is one thing that when we were, in non-COVID times, everybody was working from office. There were great interventions, there were people engaging, everything was normal, and suddenly post-COVID, it became the most difficult thing to kind of deal with and to kind of sustain to get people back. And we are one of those companies who miserably failed at it. While as a USP, within like no time, we were one of the very few companies who turned the entire 500, 700, employees working remote virtual in within a week's time of, the announcement. But getting back all of them even today is still a challenge. And what we did was we just took that failure in our stride as not final and sort of a feedback, right? That what you can't change, you just kind of reframe. So we thought, why don't we change the policy and make this more as an opportunity and a USP, within our organization for something that we can manage beautifully, across borders, where we can leverage this as one of the benefits working, with within our organization. And what we changed is we completely redefined this idea, and now we sell the USP of our company being one of the hybrid, companies, and because of which the cross-border interaction, the talent accessibility, we've suddenly become very limitless. And now we boast, about this through our various forums, saying that we have our employees, in 80 cities and, X hundred number of companies and, whatever that anybody wants to do. I think we just culturally and in my mind space only just kind of changed this entire idea, which has now resulted in a growth prospect also, that now we're thinking that maybe if we have these cohorts in some particular cities and area or more, why don't we look at these work, what do you say, shared space options, and look at, engaging them a little better and make them mini entrepreneurs in their own way, so that they feel, because we all have this some, some entrepreneurship keeda, as we say, right? That ek business keeda, ek entrepreneurial keeda we all have in, and it's those are unfulfilled desires. So now we are also kind of leveraging that as an idea that maybe in north, south, wherever that is possible, if we can open more such, offices, shared spaces, then we can actually make mini entrepreneurs within our organization rather than sorting them, outside. So this was one, I think, failure that I think we just kind of reframed and used it to our benefit instead. So yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
I
very
want
nice.
to,
Sorry. Yeah, please, please.
yeah, I want to just want to add in over there. Angeline's example just triggered a thought to me about, the mentorship, sorry, the buddy example. We've tried buddy system thrice in our organization and it has failed every time. I have no idea why. I still want to try it again because I'm a big believer in it, but it has failed. Maybe it's not needed. I think some of these things happen more organically, and it's all right to kind of give it that space of organically. We don't need to title it buddy system. People find their buddies organically, just like mentorship
That is
happens more
true.
organically. So sometimes we just try hard. Um, there's another thing I wanted to talk about, about because we're talking about failures. Thanks even for kind of initiating that, about failures. So one of the things that we do is there's a program that we read for where we get mid to senior level executives from corporates who volunteer with non-profits to kind of advise them on a few things. And some of it happens in a group manner, some of it happens in individual projects, but they still kind of the reflections are in more in a group activity. So purposefully, one of the things that we know over there is that is when people come in from the corporate sector, specifically the senior people or people who are getting to the senior people who are performers, okay. And when you give them a non-profit project which seems simple, or is of a small organization, they expect to solve it quickly, and they think that no, अरे ये तो हो जाएगा. Um, and we know that this comes in with a thought, and we don't prepare them for it. We know that it is actually almost designed for failure. We're not designing a failure, but we know the outcome. The first outcome will be a failure, as in the project will not succeed, their advice will not work on the ground, but we don't tell them to begin with. So failure is built in as an outcome that is expected out of it. And why do we do it? Because I think sometimes we're too oriented on for success, and specifically in high performance environments, we don't build in the humility to be able to fail and accept failure. So so we feel that particularly when we work with senior executives and in very structured environments like corporates, we need to build acceptance of failure purposefully. And we think that the space of social development provides enough space. In the social sector, everybody fails all the time, and so I think it's a most complicated, difficult one. So to show people that being them face to face with failure is extremely important, and we actually acknowledge it, we build for it, we don't have to plan for it, but we accept it as it happens. It brings certain amount of, it's a shock to begin with, which then moves to the next level of acceptance, and then probably trying to figure out what I did wrong, and then the next level of acceptance about, okay, even if I did something right, something could still go wrong and I could still fail. And then accepting others' failures when you're working with them as well as part of your team, peers. Uh, you know, as parents, we have to accept failure. As kids, so it's just, I think accepting failure is something that's extremely important. We recognize that. So just want to share that. Thanks.
Lovely thought. Deepa, something's coming to mind, so I want to bring it here. Sorry to cut your flow. But when we're talking about this failure and corporate and not for profit, etc., it's very easy to say them, and it's like that. But I have this phrase that I use very often, and I think that we are all stuck in this performance trap. ओके परफॉर्म करना है, ठीक है, मुझे तो करना ही है ना, माई टीम्स ऑल्सो हैव टू परफॉर्म, माई ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ऑल्सो हैज टू परफॉर्म, so we might want that the attitude is of humility, we want that people are accepting of failure, but because everybody is so in that route of performance drive karna hai, I think somewhere then we lose out on all of these other aspects, and then it becomes very unidirectional, and I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask that question, but yeah, I mean, this performance trap really misguides us, and all the initiatives that we come up with are then measured in the outcome is performance, and I think that's where I think the benchmark also needs to shift. Everything does not necessarily need to result in good performance. It can result in becoming a good person or starting a new habit or building a culture. I think that's where we're trying to drive this conversation. But thanks for sharing that, Shalab. And yeah, over to you, Deepa.
I will ask a question related to this. Just my background was not HR, but I've been writing about it for a very long time. So I'm going to ask this perspective on how, when you don't look at performance, I mean, the things are shifting. People are also, workplace ideas are changing. So how are you making that shift actually to make things work for your organization? If you're not looking at purely performance, you're looking at other lateral views of, see where the person is at, personal growth versus organizational, alignment with your organization, making sure that they do what they're supposed to do. So how would you?
So I think what Deepa, if I may rephrase it, she's saying that agar performance is not our benchmark, okay, then how are we?
Not your only benchmark, I
Not
guess.
your only benchmark. Yeah, thank you for correcting me there. But so then, how would you go about it?
Can I go with something that comes to my mind instantly?
Yes, please.
So, in fact, sometimes what seems like a success or performance may not actually be so. So for us, when we work on volunteering, whether it is independent individual volunteers who come and work with us, or it is about corporate volunteering, where a company says that I want you to design and engage my employees as volunteers. The usual output or the number everybody is looking at is the number of volunteers engaged. The next one is looking at is the number of volunteer hours. At best, what it comes to is what is the output of volunteering, as in, how did the volunteering help, the society or complete a project in that manner. Nothing ever goes beyond this. These are the usual three things. And if you're, and so these are the success benchmarks. Now, why I'm raising this, what seems like is a lot of time what happens is that, let's say we're doing a beach cleanup drive, okay? And 20 people are expected for a beach cleanup drive and 20 people turned up over there. So the number is ticked. It's a success factor as far as this is concerned. But the moment you go into the values of it, it may seem like it's a failure. For example, when we organized, so it's our team is organizing that, and it's organizing in several locations. Now, when we're organizing that beach cleanup drive or any kind of a cleanup drive, how did we go about organizing it? Did we actually use environment unfriendly ways to organize it? For example, did we serve water in small water bottles, which led to more, plastic waste and more litter? Um so did we serve kind of, things in kind of, snacks again, which are all pre-packaged? Or so that's one side of things. The other side of things is that did we actually source anything not from from just a regular well-known vendor, but actually from a self-help group which actually serving food, that is self-help group of women that is self food. Now, if you look at some of these things, they're more value oriented. So from the external perspective, project is successful, but was it done according to the values that we as an organization want to be known for or want to kind of embody? Were those values or not? So the moment that happens, it changes. Then the question is not about 20 people engaged for the volunteering or not. It was how did you do that? And at the end of the day, that what is the kind of talk that has happened? So after a cleanup drive, uh, did it change those people? So we lead to a lot of introspection. So we've realized that we don't, again, it's a world which is very action oriented. Okay. It is not, it is action oriented, it is initiative oriented, but there's not much time to think. There's not much time to reflect. And if you're able to kind of reflect, then some of these initial success factors will be broken down into something which is much more deeper. And I think that's one of the things that I just came to mind. Yeah.
No, I would so agree with you, Shalab, because volunteering experience led me to change my whole career trajectory. I quit the corporate sector and started working with the not-for-profit sector. So it has a huge impact, and it's the sorry state of affairs if you're just counting the number of volunteers or the volunteering hour and not looking at what it really did to you as a person, and therefore now as a employee how you're contributing differently. I mean, if we could really take the scale all the way till there, that would be the true impact and the assessment of that.
Yeah, so we've begun to do that actually. So some of it is, again, you need companies that are want or not just companies actually. It's more about leaders, whether HR leaders or executive leaders or business leaders or CSR leaders who understand that. But we've begun by saying that let's not measure the outside impact. Let's measure the inside impact. How has the individual changed? Because I truly believe the only lasting change in the world is the change on the person. When the person changes, their actions, their thinking, their engagement with the rest of the world changes, and that leads to the critical change. Everything else is very transactional. So how do you? The only way of moving from transactional to transformational is the world is not transforming unless the individual transforms. So that's where the difficult part is. So some corporates kind of we've been able to move the needle over that, saying that okay, what's the inward? What did the guy who volunteered? What did the girl who volunteered? How did it matter to them? And therefore how it mattered to the company, and therefore how it mattered to the non-profit where they volunteered, and therefore how it mattered to the rest of the world. And so kind of start from inside outside rather than the other way around. So yeah.
Beautifully put, and I think it that's one of the key reasons why all of us are HR in that sense, but that's the key reason why we wanted the I volunteer perspective on this. That if volunteering can have this impact on people, so can training, so can mentoring, so can coaching, and I think everybody who's listening in also needs to look at it from that perspective. It's not about an HR checklist, right? As HR professionals, we really try hard to bring about change in people, but whether the leaders who matter and who take the decision, will they allow us to take it beyond the hours, beyond the numbers, beyond the number of sessions that happened in a year, and focus on even if something, that little shift that happened in a person through a training, through a one-on-one. All the examples also that I heard were very incentive kya hai, whether it is one-on-one, am I portraying it as a benefit for you? What do you need? What's in it for you? So everything is about the individual. Unfortunately, we always work in clusters. Human resource hai to sabko ek umbrella ke niche everything. So I think that's where we struggle. So
Actually, I'll come in here. To me, it's such an amazing and interesting perspective that you're looking at it from individual perspective. That is like the crux of what we were trying to get, right, Deepam? That why are you looking at it from the organizational perspective and that kind of success? If people feel successful, they'll move it from there, and then you can gauge where it goes. Namita, would you like to, as a HR head of a company, would you like to give some perspective on this, like your views on how you approach this?
So, I largely believe in bringing a little bit more humanity in policy, right? Because in larger corporate sectors, if you need to kind of put across a message to everybody, or even if you want to convey, what mindset change you need to bring in, one thing is that you need to kind of talk about it, largely. One, you need to kind of bring it and market it enough so that it's visible and in their face so that people remember it and it doesn't get pushed beyond deadlines and rules and, all of that. So let me share with you a short story of, my journey also to kind of bring in a little humanity to something called as menstrual leave that I started within my organization, right? So in people may think this is just like a feminist stunt or something of that sort, but honestly, silently, it was something which started with a lot of quiet conversations and discomfort that we women go through every month, right? Like in fast-paced world of today, as Shala was mentioning, right? Everything is about what is the productivity, how is performance a key, and there was really never, or generally, there's never really a room to talk about what is really happening on an everyday basis how you're feeling, do you have a difficult day or not, right? Let alone talking about periods. Unfortunately, in corporate worlds, women don't even call periods periods. They call it all other names other than what it's supposed to be called, right? And sometimes making a space for them to call that and do highlight, because let's say there is a work week and women are going through difficult, discomforted, emotional, physical challenge, we would probably apply, leave under a sick leave or a personal leave, या पेट दुख रहा है या पीठ दुख रही है, without really saying what is really going through. And it becomes a very awkward conversation for all genders involved, in such a scenario, right? While it is a monthly event, but a very difficult one for everyone. And we realize that if so-called we have to future focus this, inclusive to dur ki baat hai, we just need to first talk about what happens on an everyday basis and call it out, the way it is, right? So it didn't start as a big agenda item really, but with a few conversations, very personal, quiet ones, and then it kind of hit us that there were these many unseen struggles. And fortunately for us, because of this hybrid and other things, right, we have a lot of women employees. Like without doing much, we have people, I mean, women specifically working with us part time, on a freelance basis, full time, in technology space, of different age groups, everything. So then we started asking that what would it take to normalize this? Also in cities where it may be considered a taboo, and probably observed as a weakness. So in
Yeah.
such case, we thought if we have to make it a right, we made it very simple. We kind of made a very empathetic policy, 1 day a month, fully paid, no justification needed, but a confidential whatever request process, that also not confidential in terms of nobody will talk about what it is. It's quite there on our dashboard for people to apply, and women can talk about it, consult, and even probably pick up a few hours in a day, if people wanted to just kind of take that rest for 2 3 hours and get back to work. Not a compulsory thing, to be taken as a birthright. And initially we had a lot of doubts, right? That uh, how will it be? Like, will it be taken right? Will people follow it? We wondered, will people use it, abuse it? Which way that it will go. But quite surprisingly, it was embraced by not only our leaders, but managers and everybody across so beautifully. It really surprised us. I mean, the trust it kind of built within the teams, between the managers and the team members, the engagement of women actually wanting to do, but getting that few hours of break, the open conversations, that we're having on this wellness topics where people would hide and, may not come out in open forums. All of that just kind of bundled beautifully well. And we also made it visible to others that, we see you, we hear you, we really care for you. And there is this provision available for you to kind of talk. And largely, I think in any setup, right, any engagement that you want to do, I think sometimes calling that spade a spade is very important, or talking about it, or giving a platform to talk about it, right, is more important. Most of the times we miss the bus thinking that maybe it will not be accepted, maybe it will not, be viewed as something, maybe it will be looked at, something, and we didn't market it. I mean, while we were one of the pioneers, I would say, in the education technology space, we didn't go about making videos about it and, promoting it or anything of that sort. And it's not that because we don't believe in tokenism or anything of that sort. It's just that it was an initiative really heartfelt, and something that we wanted our people to just feel comfortable, which will just pave path to so many other topics where
Yeah.
people will find safe space to just talk about it as is,
Yeah.
and not hide those paper napkins under your dupattas and under the book and diaries and take it to the washroom, right? If so
Yeah.
be.
True.
I think hygiene and other things are like a topic of way, like how Shalab talked about some of the initiatives, volunteering, being social, being this is still I think if you don't promote it and talk about it, people are not going to know about it. That they can do it and it's absolutely okay. And trust me, it didn't really burn the pockets of productivity for the organization. Also, we kind of roughly tracking it, and those 12 days into how many ever thousand female employees that we may have, it didn't really burn the hole.
Thank you
If
for the
if people,
confirmation. I think
yeah,
a
for the
lot of HR
confirmation
folks will be
validation.
wondering. ये
Yeah,
12
yeah.
दिन
Because
extra
everybody's like,
छुट्टी.
हाँ एक्स्ट्रा छुट्टी 8 घंटे into 12 months, वो भी इतने सारे women, हम तो इधर 50%, we are trying to get 50%, how will we ever do it, right? But I think honestly it doesn't. What just simply makes it easy is that it is there and we care. That's all that it does. And I think we should give credit to women. Yeah, we are sensible enough to kind of this, and to their managers to know when they would kind of fool around with something like this. So
Again, you brought
I
out
think
a
yeah.
very interesting point that again, when you do something for people that they really want, then they go all out to support it.
Correct.
And we often think that about that one person who will take advantage of policy, nine other people are suffering because of that one person. I rather identify that one person, pull them up, or ship them out because you are not aligning with our culture. We don't, we're not progressive because we think about that one or two people who will take advantage of this policy. And thank you again for highlighting that, Namita, very beautifully explained, and great to hear that something like this is easily adopted in the organization. In fact, I
And
was
a
thinking,
lovely perspective and example also actually for this very point on how to acknowledge employees. That's great. Angeline, do you have something to say about this in your sphere of work?
Yes, so I think I'll take it from where Namita, spoke about. And this is again where the shift is, right? More and more HR is now focusing on employee experience rather than just engagement. So experience is holistic. It's not just about having some fun activities and snacks and your samosas and pakoras, but it's beyond that. It's about what your employees are feeling, how are they feeling, what can you do with, what can you do to make it better. So, like, I spoke about pulse conversations. The other new thing is about well being. And a lot of organizations are also, diving into emotional and mental well being. Like in one of my organizations, we had a counselor coming in every week in all our offices, and employees had the freedom to go and avail of that facility, have that one on one conversation in private without anybody knowing that they're in the room, and share what they feel and how they feel, because a lot of these things are unseen, right? And people don't discuss. They look very strong and the highest performer, but somewhere within they're broken. Maybe they're not able to focus. So when they're not able to focus, they come under the radar of non-performance. And how these conversations can just help. Now, obviously, the counselors never discussed with us any conversations that happened. It was very private and confidential. So that trust also builds in, and the employees become more confident about that we actually care for the employees. Now, apart from this, we also did initiatives around having a doctor on call. So there was a doctor that came in every week, and employees could get free medical consultation, or advice. So these are other things that HR now focuses on, which eventually, obviously, the outcome will be better performance. Yeah, that that won't go out of this, but it just says that we care for you, not just as a worker or an employee, but as a human, as a person. And the angle of humanity then comes in here, which is where I think is the shift for all HR people, where they look at humans as humans, as talent, not just as some, like they say, resources. They are not resources anymore. They're human that we're dealing with,
yeah,
and we need to give them the best experience that they would like to have. Just like the way I would want my customers to have the best experience, through my employees. I think the employees deserve a better experience if they have to give that back to the customers.
yeah,
Can I just add to that? I think it's beautifully because you brought out that aspect of, humans. And I think uh, extremely important that we, sometimes it's as simple as just being a good person. It's beyond policies. It is beyond, so if you just provide an enabling space. And this example that came to mind as you were speaking, in our organization way long back, this is one time one of our colleagues, she walked in one day for work with her kid, and we had a small office. She walked in, and the kid was, we said, oh, okay. So we knew the kids, we say hello, and the kid was engaged in doing something, and the employee started working as regular. And then one or two more times this happened with her and with one or two other people. The interesting thing is that I never asked, why did you do that? We didn't have a policy of not allowing or allowing. It just happened, and it happened. She came in and we realized, oh, what happened? There was, the daycare was kind of closed that day or something that happened. And so I got a kid. I said, okay, great, fine. And later on, somebody from who was actually a senior HR consultant noticed this and told us, oh, you have a good policy in place. That that you're allowing women to come on with their child. I said, we don't have any such policy.
Yeah.
It was just that the person came in and she worked. And so it's about, the person didn't think about asking. We didn't think about challenging. It was, she had the thing to, and said, okay, it's a friendly place. And so she didn't have to ask. And we were friendly enough to understand it. So it was nothing about policy not structured. But it's just about being a good person. Sometimes when you're a good person, I think if you enable that thing about, you just have to be a better version of yourself. Things roll on much simpler than we expect them to be.
No,
Very
nice,
true.
nice. Anjali, again, what you said, I really like that. The performance is the outcome, wo aayega. So I think focus on the performer, focus
Correct.
on the person, and then the performance will anyways happen. And a lot of times, because it's HR, to chalo policy bana do. But everything does not require a policy. And just the way we expect flexibility from the employee, there has to be flexibility from the employer also. And in my experience, what we've observed is it's not the organization that has a challenge. It's another employee who goes and says, "Arey, usko to wo allowed hai, mujhe ye allowed nahi hai." I think as HR we get stuck a lot between managing these opposing views and people coming forward and complaining. But yeah, I think another thing I'm taking back is everything does not need a policy, and sometimes it's okay to not challenge employees on everything. ये क्यों किया है, ये क्यों नहीं किया. Uh, I think then they come forward with everything they have, and then they support the organization.
Very true. So from our conversations, it's like so evident that the shift is moving towards humanizing and looking at individual experiences rather than looking at just policy and making sure that things are in like one stack and kind of making stylos of way people should work and hierarchy and all that. So it's really interesting that everyone is bringing so much of human perspective. I mean, it makes the workplace much easier to work in also at that level. And with that, today is Fun at Work Day. So while we have touched upon a lot of mental health, employee well-being, wellness issues, we've touched upon a lot of things in this conversation about how performance, pressure about working, aligning with the organizations. I think we should have a little fun as well. So
Nice. All for it, Deepa.
before we move, I mean, I have a quick activity which is like 2 minutes. But before that, if you like to talk about any fun initiatives that you've had, I mean, shala, all of you have actually given perspectives of things that you've done in a fun way. So if you have any fun initiatives you'd like to share, please do at this point, and then we'll do that small fun game or exercise, and then we can, you know.
I will, if you allow me, I would like to take a little lead on this because it's quite fresh and running right now within
Nice.
our organization.
Yes, please.
And it started with just a stroll, right? Like when we were so-called planning our fun Fridays that we all have within our organization and, want to create that fun hour, for everybody. Uh, we kind of were brainstorming this challenge with our team that how about we make people walk, right? And we'll participate in marathons and something and all of that. And I said, fitness is something in today's world, people take it very personally, right? There's so much going on about body shaming and fitness and health and this and that and a lot of things, right? And I said, we need to do something extremely sensitive and yet make it a little fun, with what needs to be done. And that's where we kind of catapulted into this idea. So this year, I would like to this, we will be completing 25 years at Units, right? And we said, what better than this that we can do where we put on a fitness step challenge for our employees where they have to make 2025K steps that they have to achieve in 2025 as a slogan. And we drove it I mean, we've started it now since February and it's been driving force for everybody where we have leaderboard, nothing fancy, no app, nothing, just a simple Google Sheet and our own web-based leaderboards where everybody's participating irrespective of the hierarchy, just kind of counting their everyday steps through simple fitness app and punching it there in there. something that we just thought would become like a fitness shift, it just took us by a storm. I wasn't really sure what it kind of resulted into, but then teams started walking during the meetings, people started shifting Zoom calls to, walkathon talks. Everything became about, teasing, fun, challenging each other, wanting to just be even seen on the leaderboard, trying to kind of, just be there for whatever it takes to be with the friends. And it not only added to their hours, but it added to so many blessings from our employees, from their families. We genuinely have seen a behavior change. It's brought consistency, community building, culture, teasing, giggles, whatever you want to call it, right? And we really didn't know. Because for people, they just needed a reason, some reason to kind of hook on to and kind of make this as a big thing in their lives. And something like this, where they kind of get a certain visibility, recognition, all of that, and it's associated with their well-being and fitness as well, literally changed our dynamics, for this world. So now it has not only become a slogan, but it's become a motive, and it has kind of really engaged everybody in, from, like maybe Gen Zs to baby boomers to traditionalists, to everybody participated in it wholeheartedly. So yeah, we
Very
look
nice.
forward to closing it successfully. Thank you.
Very nice. We still have 2, 3 more minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead with that game. Just all of you can post. I think you'll have to make it meeting group chat. You'll have to post 3 emojis that you think can describe your day today. Just fun at work.
You want us to put it in chat?
Yeah, put it in the Zoom chat. We'll just talk about it. I mean, and I'll see if I can decode what you have to say. 3 is max. You can put 1 or 2 if that's all you have. Oh, nice. It's been a cool day. Oh, that's cool, Namita. Love, party, and blessings. Is that how you feel today? Wonderful. That's Namita. You feel loved. And Angeline, heart, loving what you're doing. I'm glad. That's like, I'm going to take it as a compliment for our event. And cool. Yeah.
Okay.
Deepam, yeah. Tough. Wow. Okay. Loved. All of us are feeling strong. I love that. That's very nice. Shalab is thinking very hard about what we have to say. Has your day been fun, funny? Have any of you been fooled yet?
So I got one April Fool message, but that's about it.
I
Nice.
was being asked, about it, and like, are you sure you're participating or this? I was like, hey, it's on LinkedIn. Go and watch it.
Okay. Okay, Angelina's posted. Shalab has said he's wondering what's going on, feeling peaceful, laughing hard. So I guess it all ends well, right? Fun at work?
Super. One initiative we had done for fun. It was very impromptu. We were deciding ki, acha, what do we do virtually, and everybody's on the screen. How do we do something fun? So we all have a team group. Everybody has, right? So we have a all hands group. So we did a jiffing contest.
Yeah, I
So we
love
said,
that.
okay, now let's think of an emotion. So we said, "Acha, how was your day today?" Everybody post one GIF, and then everybody say, "Okay, what do you think about your husband?" And then everybody has to put a GIF. So it was a hilarious, fun activity, and it's kind of picked up for everything. Now we GIF on the all hands group. कुछ भी होता है तो
Fun.
it's like GIFing. So.
Yeah, one of our, recently in the Fun Fridays, again, we also do Fun Fridays. One of the
Nice.
facilitators, what she did was within the team, she said that, okay, ask ChatGPT, just open up ChatGPT and write, roast me.
That's
Because a
what
lot of people use ChatGPT, right? And I think for some of the people, it is amazing. I think, and it was obviously you because you're laughing on yourself, and others are also getting to know more about you. Good
that's
Wonderful.
fun. I think
fun.
everybody can do that.
That's such a
But you
fun
have to
one.
have, yeah, you just have to have people who actually use ChatGPT. There are people like me who didn't have anything. The ChatGPT was clueless what to do. I don't use it.
That is also funny. I don't know you. I don't want to talk about you. Well,
Nice, fun,
anyway.
fun, fun.
So
That's
with that, I think we've had a really fun, engaging conversation. I hope you all had some as much fun as we did at Yellow Spark. This is the first time we've done it, and we are hoping to do some more. Great takeaways. A lot of humanizing of HR, which is I think the trend, the way we should be going, and big transformations always happen from small wins. So that was really ratified by all your examples. Was so much fun. We had a really great time talking to all of you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much,
With
Navita.
that, that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We
Thank you.
enjoyed it.
Thank
Bye.
you for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.